Welcome to Lead Poison.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Lead Poison podcast, brought to you, as always, by youcanpaint.com.au. Please head to youcanpaint.com.au for issue 1 of their how-to series, How to Paint Your House and Save Thousands. My name is Jack, your host, and today I am joined by Harry Union. Harry is an expat currently living and working as a tattoo artist in Hamburg, Germany. I met Harry 15 years ago, and it was very apparent he would pursue a life in art. With a strong background in graffiti, Harry turned his hand to the needle and has since entrenched himself in the world of ink and paint. I've always respected his passion for painting and drawing, so it comes as no surprise to hear he is still learning his craft and looking for new ways to educate himself. I enjoyed our discussion very much, and I hope you do as well. So please welcome Harry Union.
Personally for myself, because I wasn't able to work for quite a long time, I as bad as it sounds, I actually liked having the time to learn new things, and I feel like I used the time pretty productively, so I think a lot of people went either one of two ways, where they just kind of sat around feeling depressed, didn't do anything, or they, I don't know, just tried to do something, you know what I mean? Because I think you can kind of feel sorry for the situation. It is shit, but I don't know. I've found it actually a welcome blessing. Like my life is kind of like pretty different since before and after lockdown, I would say.
It's funny, man. Like before the pandemic, it was so easy to find information about other countries, but for some reason, I don't know what's happening, but it seems to be so difficult to get info on what's happening in other countries. It's like it's sort of like segregated and things like that. It's just difficult to get info.
In a way, I've also found that here, because I've found a lot of people that I speak to, regarding information about like what are the laws now, what's going on. A lot of people are having the same issue in, like, say, in Germany, or at least in Hamburg, because every Bundesland, which is like kind of like the different states, has different regulations as well, and there's no central source of information. And I feel like that's probably been the same case everywhere. There's not a lot of continuity between, like what you should do, or like what's going on, and it's been really hard to kind of communicate that information. So I found, for me, definitely trying to, I had customers asking me what was going on with restrictions and what we were allowed to do and not allowed to do. And I was getting like the same information as them. I don't have like some department kind of telling me like, oh yeah, you're allowed to do this now. So it was really kind of difficult. And I was also I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, if you don't know, then I also don't know, because we're getting our information from the same place, which is like actually kind of nowhere, because I thought it was just me. Like, I don't read a lot of German news. Like, I still read a lot of Australian news. So I thought it was just me not paying attention to German news or something. But then, a lot of people I spoke to had the same issue, man. It was really hard to find succinct and just trustworthy information about this is what you are and aren't allowed to do at this point in time,
Yeah, definitely, man. And I imagine the, tattoo parlors and things like that, the rules are pretty strict around having people in. And I was getting a little bit of work done on my back probably a year ago, maybe longer anyways. And the guy that was doing my stuff was in the same situation. He's like, I don't know, man. At one point we had to wear masks. Everyone had to wear masks while they're getting tattooed, and it was just real awkward, and everything gets hot, and then he just had to shut up shop recently for a little while.
I think I tried to get a massage in between lockdowns, and trying to get a massage with the mask on while you're like lying face down on the massage bed. Like, it's they're trying to put on like the meditative music, and they're trying to calm you, but like it was rather like, it wasn't super comfortable. Like, I didn't get a massage after that.
Didn't go back.
No. Maybe eventually it could be a bit better, but I know with some situations, well, yeah, especially with tattooed, because a prerequisite to getting tattooed is discomfort. Like to have the mask added into that, which because we still have to wear masks now,
Oh,
which
really?
is fine. Yeah, yeah. Like I kind of foresee that staying around for quite a while.
Yeah, true. Definitely, man. It's become sort of second nature in a way. I don't even know if I'm wearing one or not anymore. It's just around my head, around my neck.
Yeah, I end up with three in my pocket by the end of the day because I just like I don't even think about it. I just pick like it's like, oh, there's a box of masks. Like I'll take a mask out and then forget that I picked it up, and then yeah, by the end of the day I got like a bunch of masks, which is kind of like it's funny through time how that's changed. Where I remember when I was younger, it always used to be like on Fridays or Saturday nights, it used to be lighters, and I used to come home with like 5 lighters in your pockets, like, and then I had like a box at home of like these stolen lighters, and then after that it was pens, like where I'd always just end up with fucking random pens, like, I don't know, you borrow a pen and then you fucking put it in your pocket, and then now it's masks, I don't know, it's in the next stage of like stolen goods that are just kind of meaningless stolen goods.
How depressing.
It's all right.
So, I mean, speaking of sort of COVID and stuff, tell me about Hamburg at the moment. Is it you guys fully open? Everything open for business? What's the deal over there?
Kind of. It's in, let's say, like a transition stage at the moment because they've just changed. They had this, they had it before where it was like you could, if you've had COVID or you've been vaccinated or if you've been tested, you can go places, like you can do things. They've just changed that to 2G, which is like they've taken out the being tested thing, and you can only be vaccinated or if you've had COVID before. I think so. Like it's but it's not mandatory yet, but they're looking at changing it to be mandatory. And a lot of businesses are already taking in the 2G thing. Or actually, it might even be mandatory. Like, this is what I mean. It's hard for me to exactly say because I know a week ago, some businesses were talking about using the 2G concept. And then I think they did actually change the laws just now to be this 2G thing. So it's like things are open, but like say, for example, I was at a restaurant on Saturday for a friend's birthday, Friday, Saturday, whatever. And like at 10:45, the cops came like and was like, yeah, no, you got to stop serving drinks now. And they were like pretty hardly controlling it, like like that, because it's like there's like an alcohol ban from a certain time forward. So even in, yeah, like I said, somewhere like a restaurant, which isn't like people out on the street, they're kind of clamping down on that and actually like going into businesses and kind of controlling it, which is, I don't know, from what I've heard about what it's been like in Sydney, like actually in terms of police control and stuff, it's not super bad. Like it has its moments, but it's like, yeah, I don't know, like somehow manageable.
Yeah, totally, man. And like you were saying before, just with adapting to the situation, I think it's important just to deal with what's happening and just do the best that you can. A lot of people, I mean, there's massive things happening at the moment in Melbourne today, and it's just fucking craziness and people throwing bottles at cop cars and everything. But it's just everyone's got their opinions, but I guess you just got to fucking just crack on, man. As long as you can get ink on skin, I guess you're a happy man.
Yeah, pretty much. Like just kind of I think routine is the main thing that, like, the takeaway from what I kind of desire, or like what I want in terms of like moving forward, which is if there's more lockdowns, it does make it hard because you kind of have to impose a routine on yourself. And if if you're working and you and things are open, like you can kind of be like, okay, this week I'm like I'm working, I'm training, I'm doing. You can set yourself kind of goals to achieve, which, yeah, like I found, after a couple months of trying to do that with no work, you can do it, but it does get hard to kind of maintain, so yeah, I think routine is like something, and I think a lot of people struggle with that as well. If you take the routine away from them, they're not really happy. They feel a bit lost or something like that,
Yeah, routine's great, man. Discipline and routine, always good things to try and incorporate in your life. How long were you out, not able to work?
So last year, I think I came, like I was in Australia for January. I came back for February, and then by the start of March, everything was locked down. So then that was a 2.5 month lockdown, or just a little bit longer than 2.5 months lockdown, and then we were open again for another few months, and then I think it was October or November we closed again, and then we were closed until February, and we were open for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they locked down again for another couple months. So, I don't know. It was on and off, but in total, like, I mean, the last lockdown was basically, I think, like 5.5 months, and then with the exception of those 3 weeks in the middle, which was also like, I think that was almost harder in a way because I booked myself out so hard in those 3 weeks that like I was fucked by the end of it, man. Which is fine. It's good, but yeah, like, I don't know, like that, like I said, this on and off, like everything's been up and down over the past like 2 years, and so it's really hard to say like what the next month's going to be like, and I think also for people as well, because then people go into like not panic mode, but like, say for example, there's one studio that my friend works out in the south of Germany, and his town, like for whatever reason, they were allowed to stay open, but everything was closed within like a 300-kilometer radius, and so everyone from this radius was coming like just to his shop to get tattooed, which is like good for business, but it's like, it's really weird how people like, like buying shit is an activity. You know what I mean? So like, if you take this activity away from people, they go into this like, fuck, like where can I go to like just fucking buy some shit?
Spend some
like,
money. Yeah,
exactly.
A bit of retail therapy.
Exactly. And especially because like, like it's also the act of like not just ordering shit online, but like going out and going somewhere and purchasing something. I think there is something to that people like, and then when they've had that taken away, and when it's on and off, like, you get that like 1 month after a lockdown where everyone goes crazy, and then yeah, like I noticed definitely like after the last lockdown, like the first month was like super crazy, and then I like tried to like hold back a little bit on appointments and stuff like that, and then it started like slowing down a little bit, and now it's kind of more normal. And then you've got people like, because like international borders opened up and stuff like that, so then there was like people who went on holidays, and then everyone at the table got COVID, so they had to quarantine for 2 or 3 weeks, or like people getting vaccinated, and then like they just didn't really like think about it, so they had to rebook appointments. So there's like a lot of that going on now in the past month as well, which is to be expected. So it's just really like, it's just kind of hard to judge how it's going to be. And I like going back to the original point of like wanting information and a central source of information. Like, I think this is also hard for like governments and shit like that in general to give like a straight answer, because like if customers and people that I'm dealing with like have a hard time planning and they're kind of spontaneous and stuff like that, then I guess like getting information and statistics and all that kind of stuff with something that's so new is also hard for governments to compile and then put it into one place.
Yeah, totally, man. Especially when you got to make rules that go across the board, you know what I mean? That must be pretty difficult.
Yeah, definitely. And especially at the moment, it's election time here. That's like another thing which, like fuck, at the end of the day, man, like if you make a decision as, like in a government position, like you are thinking about how this is going to affect the popular vote, like how people are going to view your decision, So I think a lot of people are trying to walk the middle ground, and like, so it's like, that's also like another reason why no one's giving like a direct answer, because you're going to like, no matter what you say, you're wrong, you're going to piss off like a bunch of people that have been like locked inside and are frustrated and their businesses are fucked, and like
it's a lose-lose situation, I guess, in a lot of ways. But good to hear that, I've been speaking to a lot of artists lately, and people that involved in performing and arts and things like that, and the message across the board is that people have used the time, whether they're locked down or restricted in some way or another, to sort of work on their craft, which are, speaking of like retail therapy and things, people that maybe don't have something to turn to might go down that path, but people that have something they've been working on, painters and graffiti artists or rappers or fucking whatever, if you've got something to sort of work on in that downtime, it's been really good for people, I think. So
Yeah, it definitely is. It makes me feel kind of sorry for people that don't have something like that, you know? Like I think it's a real gift to um even be interested in something creative in a way. Like, or just, you know, like if you make things, then it's like that's a pretty lucky thing. Because I think a lot of people aren't predisposed to that, or like the majority of people aren't predisposed to that, you know? So when you see like protests and shit, whatever, like I guess a lot of that is because they're, you know, they might not have an outlet, you know what I mean? So like that's where a lot of the frustration stems from.
totally,
um
man.
you know, so I do feel pretty lucky in that way, that I do, like, I just have things that, like, kind of solitary things, you know, like a lot of people are really social. You know, I'm a social guy myself, but you know, like a lot of these activities can be practiced in solitude, you know, and that is quite a rare or lucky thing to be able to do.
Totally, man, for sure. You know, I haven't spoken to you in a long time. What took you to Hamburg in the first place? How long have you been there?
Been there about 8 years now.
Straight from Australia, straight there, or did you move around a little bit?
No, I pretty much came straight here, man. Like a good friend of mine, he basically said I can stay on the couch. Like he got an apartment. You know what I mean? Like I'd been to Europe a year before, just traveling around a little bit for just a couple months, like nothing crazy. And then yeah, the I left to come back to Australia. He stayed, and he got an apartment, and he said I can stay on the couch for as long as I want. So yeah, I kind of said like, all right, well, I'll be there next month, and then took him up on the offer, and then came over, man. Like, and I kind of, my plan was originally just to stay for a year, but it, and like, yeah, it just kind of kept working, and I kept extending, and you know, like I'm still here now.
Was tattooing, in your life before you left, or did you find that over in Germany?
No, no, that was so I've been tattooing since 2009. You know, so I was definitely tattooing a little bit before I came. You know, like working in shops and whatnot. Yeah. So like that's also a lucky thing that it's like I came over and I kind of had already, like, I've already got something to do. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have to I don't know, work in kitchens or something like that might have been less desirable, man. So I've been in a kind of lucky position in that way, that I, you know, like pretty young got the opportunity to start tattooing. You know.
Yeah, totally, man. So do you have formal training? Did you do an apprenticeship and, the traditional sort of method of getting into the industry, or did you just sort of jump in the deep end?
No, no, I did have a apprenticeship. It was a bit scattered. Um, you know, like another friend of mine, Dicer, he basically, like, I got a couple tattoos off him, and he was saying like, you know, they're looking for an apprentice at his shop. Would I be interested in trying out? I did, and you know, fuck, I was 18, man. I didn't really know. Um, didn't know anything, you know, like any 18-year-old kid, like, man, I'm basically a child. So I started working there, and as an apprentice, and it was way more hectic than I thought it would be. You know, like just even from the environment, stuff like that. So I think I stayed there for about a year, and then I was like, nah, like I'm not really. I just wasn't liking it there, you know, and that like part of that was definitely like myself as well. You know, like I said, I was fucking 18. I didn't really know what I didn't know anything, you know. So like a part of that was just me being a dumb kid, you know. And then yeah, luckily enough, another someone that I met through that shop, which is Pixie. She like, you know, I just said like, oh yeah, like I'm leaving here, like I'm not really feeling it. She's like, oh well, I'm gonna go try get a job at this other place. Like I'll need an apprentice, and I like your drawings. Like maybe you come in with me, see what happens, you know. And then yeah, then I went to another place to try work there. You know, like pretty much dumb luck. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely not by me try, like some people have tried really hard to get opportunities to start tattooing, whereas opportunities have presented themselves to me. So I've been stupidly lucky, you know, in that way. And then so we went there, and the guy at the time at that shop said, oh, you know, we don't need any apprentices, but we can hire you to Pixie. And then I think a week later, she called him back. Oh no, sorry, he called her back to basically say that he'd fired everyone, and that actually, like, maybe we do need an apprentice, and if you say he's good, like, yeah, come in, we need you, and like, yeah, he can be your apprentice. And then I worked there for a year, and then that shop got blown up.
Was that in Sydney?
Yeah. That was in Coogee.
Right.
And then
were you there when it happened?
Yeah. Well, we were on holidays, so like by that time, another friend of mine, Jack.
Totally, for sure.
Yeah. He started working with us there, and then we'd just taken time off for Christmas, like, so this would have been, I don't know, a couple of days after Christmas, and he calls me up in the morning just going like, oh yeah, like, we don't have a job. I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, yeah, the shop's been blown up. I'm like, nah. Like, and then, like, because I just answered the phone, I haven't actually looked at my phone, and then like, it's like, fuck, like, I'll call Pick. So, and then I like looked at my phone, and then there was like, fucking heaps of messages from people going like, oh, are you all right? If you need anything, let me know. And I'm like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Hadn't read any news articles by this time. And then call Pixie, tell her the same thing. She had basically the same reaction as I did. And then, yeah, I don't know. Like, then from there, I did some tattoos at home for a little bit, just for a couple months, just because, like, fuck, I don't know. Like,
was that the end of that shop altogether? I mean, did it?
Yeah. That was the end. Like, it was blown up. I mean, the boss called up Pix at one point, going like, "Oh, do we have insurance?" She's like, "What the fuck do you mean? Like, I don't know. Do you have insurance? Like." So like, yeah, like, it was really. I mean, there's a lot of shit with that shop that was, like a bit, whatever. But yeah. Anyway, so from there, then I was doing some tattoos at home for a couple months, and then I think a month later or something like that, maybe not even a month later, a guy called Rev told a friend of mine, because I'd met him before at some point, like, yeah, if you, I heard about your friend's shop, like, it's pretty shit go. If he wants to come in, like, I might be able to offer him like another apprentice position. Tell him to get in contact, and I talked to him, and then I started like there as an apprentice again. But then I think at that point, because I was already doing tattoos, like, there was no official like, you're not an apprentice anymore. Like, it was more, I overheard him talking to another customer, like, oh, like the other customer had asked him, oh, is he still like, is he the apprentice, or what's going on? He's like, oh, nah, look at the tattoos he's doing, like, he's not an apprentice. So that was kind of like, for me in my mind, the official, like, you're not an apprentice anymore. It was no like, oh yeah, here you go and you're tattooing. It's just like, I heard it in conversation, like,
overheard
from
it.
the other side of I overheard, I'm not the apprentice anymore, so it was kind of like unceremonious, and I had like a bit of a interesting path to kind of from apprenticeship to not apprenticeship, but yeah, nonetheless, that's kind of how it went.
It sounds exactly how I would expect an apprentice to go through a tattoo apprenticeship, like, just traveling around so much and moving from shop to shop, and then finding out that you're sort of done, overhearing it in a conversation. That just fits the mold so well.
Yeah. Well, I think now it's maybe a bit different, because I think tattooing now is like way different than when I started. I think, so that was 12, 13 years ago. Let's say like 12 years ago, solid 12 years ago. So I think the experience now, and even just the expectations now, are way different than then as well. So I don't think it would be like a normal experience. Like I mean, even the fact that I was like kind of offered apprenticeships, I think is strange. Like I feel like my experience is being a little bit strange, but I'm grateful for it at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of those experiences are like kind of fundamental to, what got me here.
Yeah, definitely.
In a way.
And, you just brought up sort of an interesting point. I don't really know a lot, about the tattoo industry and the whole, tattoo world. And I'm sure it's, I know it's got deep histories and it goes way back. And in terms of someone like yourself working in the tattoo industry, I'm sure there's a lot to learn. But I was interested, and I've always thought, and I've only had a few little tattoos here and there, and I just started getting my back done, and that was my first sort of experience in a proper shop with proper artists and going through the whole process. But it seems to me like there's been probably some massive shifts from when you started up until now, just in terms of the industry maybe being a little bit more mainstream and more sort of acceptable from the general public. Do you notice that, you and your artists, the other people that you're working with, it's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because obviously you want as much work as you can get, but at the same time, does it ever get frustrating that, and I don't know a lot about Goldies and what kind of clientele you have, but do people come in and ask for things or maybe approach tattooing in a way that isn't sort of central to what you think it is, or do you just not really care about that and you're happy to go ahead with the work no matter what it is?
I don't know. Like, I mean, basically how it works is, for me personally, or how it's always kind of worked, is through word of mouth. So, I think a lot of people have different experiences with how they kind of figure out what works for them in terms of work. But even in Australia, and then in Germany as well, like a lot of it is through word of mouth. So I think in a way, tattooing has become more accessible. Like it's been acceptable, I think, for quite a while, but I think it's definitely become more accessible, and I think more in the terms of like who can do it. You know what I mean? So there's less of a there's less doors that you have to walk through to kind of get into it if you want to do tattoos, which is maybe good, maybe bad. It means the standards are a lot higher. But it also, like, there's certain things in terms of like customer expectations about what would make a good tattoo that affects business in a way that the more accessible it is, the more people that are doing it, and they're not necessarily like it hasn't been information that's been handed down. It's just like, they've learned at home, and then a shop's given them an opportunity like to tattoo there, and then they just start tattooing there, or whatever it is, or they learn from home and then they open their own shop, like whatever the case is, that like some of this kind of like you're saying, like this historical knowledge of like, okay, this is what works and what will work for a long time technically, and this other stuff might not hold. And so how to educate the customer in a way that's respectful of their idea, and try to bring them to the finish line with something that's not only going to look good now but look good in the future. And that also like is having a conversation with tattooing in general. Like every piece of work that you do is kind of like a conversation with tattooing. So it is a double-edged sword. I don't know if, like, it depends what you're comparing it to. I think that now there's so many people tattooing that like a lot of customers will just go with what sound, like if someone tells them something that they want to hear, a lot of people will go with that. And I think a lot of people have a hard time hearing like, look, maybe like your idea is great, but maybe it would be better if it was interpreted in this way, or if you made these slight changes, or like, I don't know, if you want 50,000 things on your arm, maybe reduce it down to 4 things, and then like that's going to translate better into the message that you're trying to communicate. I think some of that is kind of lost as it becomes more accessible, because I guess for me personally, it's tattooing to me is communicating what the customer wants, because they want to communicate that to the world. Like, you're putting a picture on yourself for other people to look at, basically. So it's a form of communication. And I think there's been a shift to where, like a lot of people just want to get what the artist wants to do, which is like, I think there's definitely, like, that's definitely something that is also not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just a shift nonetheless, where it's become less about the customer, or there's been less focus on the customer, and there's more focus on the artist in a way.
Interesting. I thought it would have been the other way around. So, I mean, do you prefer when someone gives you complete reins, control of, I just want something on my back. You tell me what you'd like, and you can design it and everything like that. Or as part of the process, from what I can tell from what you're saying, is it's preferable to have them have some sort of a message or some sort of a picture, and you sort of guide them through what will work in terms of, technically what will work with the tattoo with that particular art form.
Like if someone tells me like do whatever you want, I don't personally like that, just from the standpoint of like for me, tattooing is a collaborative process. Like it's something that you work on together with the customer. Like that for me, I really like that back and forth with the customer. And if I'm just putting something on that I like you can be pretty, like I can almost guarantee that the customer is not going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Like just depend. Like I said, it depends on who you
Some
are,
dark
and what kind
interests,
of work you do.
maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just it's not easily digestible. Like if you look at my sketchbook, it's like way different than the stuff that I do for customers. Just because it's just something different that I do personally. So I personally prefer to work together with a customer on their idea, and then try and, like I said, like for me personally, I develop like long relationships with customers. So like I don't know, one customer of mine, man, she's a weapon, dude. She just kind of sits through everything, doesn't complain at all, has all these mad ideas. But it all started out with like a small anchor like this big on her ribs as like a walk-in like years ago. And then she got one tattoo slightly bigger, and then like as time went on, like our relationship and level of communication developed better. And I mean, now she's got like her back from me, her whole front, both her half arms, like her thighs, like and like I think as time went on, and she, like in a way, when she saw that it was kind of possible for her interesting ideas, because she worked in a bookstore, so she's obviously got an interest in culture and books and different ideas, and not just that, she probably gets influenced by like a lot of different books. And so like that means that she has like a bunch of cool ideas that aren't necessarily super conventional, and like to be honest, she's far more interesting than I am. You know what I mean? But she'll give me like a really interesting idea, and then I can kind of be like, oh well, what if we do this with your idea? You know what I mean? But so that's just one example of how like that the long-term relationship led to like this interesting body of work on one person, and how like so we decided early on as well, because I think I started using gray pigment instead of just normal black and gray, and so now she has basically like like a thighs to half arm like bodysuit in black and gray pigment, which has the continuity through all those pieces has come together really nicely, like because there's no other colors in there, like which like I don't think that it would have happened otherwise if there hadn't been that communication, if we hadn't kind of like brainstormed together, and like so I think in that term of like, I prefer working in that way, where not only is it good to work with a customer, but also like I do like developing these kind of personal relationships with customers that allow you to be kind of vulnerable, and allow them to be vulnerable, and then you kind of come up with interesting ideas to color in on them, basically. Like I'm drawing on people. It's a really obscure thing.
It is. Yeah, it is totally obscure, man. And that's really interesting, because the way I sort of looked at it was that, the tattoo artist is an artist, and they want to get their art out into the world. And I thought the weight would be much more on the artist's point of view as opposed to the person getting it. But it's really interesting to hear that maybe you're exposed to people that are from different walks of life and have different worldviews than you, and you can kind of learn off them and share, as you said, like a collaborative experience. That's really cool, man.
I think as well, like, look, it's a really interesting position to be in, because like if you're kind of face to face with someone, like literally touching them, and they have to trust you and be extremely vulnerable, and if you do this for like hours at a time, and then for years at a time, like you do talk about ideas, and then like not only is it for me to just kind of like talk and then bounce my ideas off them, then they might give me an interesting point of view because of like their experience in the world, and like they're completely different from me, man. And like it'll always be from who you don't expect as well, man. Like I don't know, like it might be someone that works in a bank, it might be a cop, it might be like just someone that I wouldn't normally interact with. And if I was in my own bubble of just not interacting or not getting out of my comfort zone, which which now I've been doing for like 12 years of like interacting with people on this level for a long time. It affects my worldview, and it affects like how I interact with the world as a consequence.
You mentioned that the lady that you just mentioned, you said she sat like a champ, or I'm not exactly how sure you put it, but obviously pain.
A weapon, I believe.
A weapon, yeah. sat like a weapon. Obviously pain is a big part of tattooing. It's just part of it. How did you obviously you're pretty well used to people dealing with pain in different ways and how they manage it. But how much of that aspect of the art sort of takes up your thought process in do you discuss it with your clients? Sometimes I imagine you might have to stop. Do some people, do different things, or do you process your tattoos in certain ways where you start in certain areas and then move to others? And do you discuss that with your clients?
Yes. I think, well, and this is the other thing about developing longer relationships with my customers is that, sometimes someone might come to me with like they want something bigger. They want, their ribs done as their first tattoo, and they don't have any other tattoos. And, they like, if I ask them like, what's your pain threshold like they don't really know, and they just say good. And then, you kind of start, like say you've got to do the lines or something, and then, you kind of realize early on, like, oh, this dude is not like, I'm not going to be able to finish the lines like this today. Whereas if it's someone that I've like been tattooing for a while, and then, like I get to understand their pain threshold, and then, like I will book appointments according to how I know that they'll sit. Like there's no point in making like a 6-hour appointment if I know like in my heart of hearts that you're only going to sit for 3, and that, which is totally fine. It's just like, yeah, like to have, it's important to kind of have this understanding of this individual person, and I've also noticed that actually this is like Germans will sit differently to Australians, and
Really?
I don't know exactly. Yeah, I don't know why, but like everyone in Australia seems to sit a lot longer than Germans, and I think it's because of the sun. I don't know.
Oh, because you think their skin might be more sensitive?
Perhaps, yeah.
Or you think Germans might just be inherently tougher people, potentially?
No, I think like maybe Australians are tougher. I would say because Australians sit good, but it's I think it might be the sun. That's the only thing I can really boil it down to, because like
interesting.
Yeah, like I definitely notice a difference in that too. So that I have to factor that in. But like it's like even if you're training and it's cold, you know what I mean, and you should probably warm up a little bit longer when it's cold because your bones are stiffer and stuff like that. So if it's colder more of the year round, like I don't know, like this is my thinking. I know it's purely anecdotal. I don't actually know what I'm talking about, but it's definitely a difference I noticed, because when I was in Australia last time, I tattooed a few people, and they like they'll just sit there for fucking hours on their ribs, like I'm not being forgiving, and like no complaints. They're just chilling.
Oh, wait a minute. So you're saying that Australians tend to sit longer than the Germans that you've experienced?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I got that mixed up.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Huh. Yeah. I wonder if there's anything to that.
Yeah, I don't know. But so then, if I come to Australia and I'm going to be tattooing some people, then I will automatically kind of like be like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I can smash this out. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to be too cautious, and I'm pretty sure this person can kind of sit through it. Like.
Have you noticed any sort of, is there any rules across the board? I mean, girls, boys, muscly, certain maybe career paths that people take. Is there any particular type of people that seem to sit better than others, or is it completely random.
It's I don't know, just the opposite of what you think. So every tough guy that looks like a mad cunt is definitely going to sit worse than, I don't know, like the 5 foot girl that like is really quiet and like not really, like doesn't seem like she'd sit like crazy men. Like and from my personal experience, it's kind of always been like that from when I started till now. Like, and yeah, in Australia and Germany, yeah, like everyone that was like, I don't know, looked like they were on steroids or something. Like they generally never sat as good as like the quiet achiever, the like, I don't know. They were just like small, chill, and you wouldn't expect them to be able to sit as good as they did.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, because I thought about that a lot, that type of thing, when I went to get my back started. Because the pain was a real big thing for me, and I was really preparing myself, and I put a lot of thought into, because I'd never really gone through anything like that. And to some people it might not be that much at all or whatever, but I thought about it a lot before I went in because I was expecting the worst, and I came to found that I did, it was pretty tough for a few of the sessions that I had, and I think maybe a lot of it's mental and things like that, and potentially people just have different thresholds from birth and whatever. But I think it's really interesting because it's a big part of the art form. I mean, you've got this art form, but it's sort of overshadowed by pain and to get it in there and to make it work, you need to go through this experience.
It's part of the cathartic nature of it, man. Like it's if I kind of like, because I've thought about it a bit, so it's like you have an idea and you want to immortalize that idea, and then I think almost in a way to let go from that idea, you have to go through this experience, of pain or whatever, and then you can move on from it. Even if it's just, purely decorative. I still think that's part of it because it ends up being more hectic than you realize. Like, especially if you're like only getting it for vanity reasons, but then you have to kind of like, you don't think about it. You think, yeah, this is going to look mad. And then you realize, like, wait a second, this is fucked. Like this is actually really painful. And so like even if it catches you off guard, I think that's also like a positive thing. But that's part of the cathartic process of, moving on from whatever that immortalized moment is. So like, I think, and like everyone who tries to, I don't know, like take tramadol or like oxys or whatever to get away from the pain, like in the end, they still have to kind of experience the pain as well, like, or experience a shit experience, like, fuck, I remember back in Sydney ages ago, like everyone was sniffing oxys before they fucking got tattooed because they didn't want to experience the pain. And then like, by the evening they were throwing up like a junkie, man, So I still think in the end they kind of had to experience like a level of pain and discomfort, So it's like there's no getting out of it no matter which way you try and go about it, like even if it's not from the pain of the tattoo, but then, the after effects of whatever you took to try and get over the pain of the tattoo.
Interesting, man. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I mean, there's no such thing as a free lunch, is there? You're going to, one way or another, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something that I asked my tattoo artist sort of maybe fourth or fifth session. I spoke to him about people that might come in drunk, and I, had a little bit of a conversation. I like talking to people. So, and just to get his perspective on clients and what he prefers, because I wanted to be a good client for him because I knew that would benefit both of us. Does it annoy you when people, is that something you think about if people want to deal with the pain with, opiates or maybe alcohol? Is there something that you advise against, or do you just don't care as long as you don't see it, or is it just whatever?
It depends. It depends.
Depends on the person?
I explained. Yeah, depends on the person, depends on how much they want to take. Because some people will take whatever before, and then halfway through they'll be like, it's not working. I'm like, yeah, I know, I told you.
Yeah.
And then they'll try and take more, and then they're just a fucking mess by the end of the session. Whatever. Like say for example, I had a dude that I was tattooing the other week, and like he'd taken something before. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then like I had to draw on him for a while before he started. I kind of explained this to him before the appointment, but whatever, it was in one ear, out the other. And, like he was kind of standing there, like getting semi-pissed that I was like taking so long to draw. And I'm like, man, like I kind of explained this. He's like, oh, sorry, give me a second. And he went to the toilet 4 times. It turns out he was throwing up. And then he explained this to me like after like he lied down. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, fuck, man. Like, I don't know. I kind of told you this like before we started. So, you know, your own fault, but whatever, you know. Yeah, it's for me personally, like it depends. It really depends because, like I said, like it can be frustrating in that sense because it's like the customer's getting pissed at me because they got to throw up, you know, like, and I like it's like fuck, man, like I have to, like, if you want this tattoo, I have to draw on you. Like, there's, you know, I can't really get around this. But there'll be other times, man. Like, you know, like I said, if it's someone that I know, it's like they're partial to a beer, I'll suggest like, man, have like 2 beers. And then we'll tattoo you because it's like it's a mental thing, like you're saying, you know, like it's like I know those 2 beers will put this person at ease. So like fuck it, like just have the 2 beers. Like it's, you know, like I don't think it's not going to affect the tattoo process for me at all. And I would prefer that than them being super anxious, you know, like I think we can all attest that you feel a bit different after 2 beers than without 2 beers. So like I said, it really depends. Then there's other people that like, say for example, they don't smoke weed and then they think that if they get real stoned before they like come and get tattooed that they're going to be all good. And then fucking, you know, they're having like a little like anxiety attack, like fucking just sitting there sweating, you know.
I would assume
like,
that's a terrible idea.
they always, yeah, and a lot of people are like, fuck, like this was a bad idea. And I'm like, yeah, like, you know, it's like I said, my suggestion to people is like, look, just sleep well before and have a real big breakfast or a real big meal before you come in. And then that's the best thing you can do, you know. But like I said, so it's, you know, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with personalities, like, you know, like 10 of their friends said, you got to try this fucking thing. Like it'll be, like, this is what really helps. Like, take this and you take this fucking Dicmadol or whatever the fucking, whatever it's called. And it'll, you know, it'll help. And then, yeah, like I said, like they get there and then they're just fucked, you know, like, I don't know, like whatever, like I said, even if you're getting stoned, which is like, if you smoke weed all the time, I think it doesn't matter. Like you have a different experience with smoking weed than if you don't really smoke weed and you somehow think this is like some remedy to the experience, you know?
Yeah. If you don't smoke weed and then you smoke weed, catching a bus is hard enough, let alone going to an artist space and getting a needle drilled into your face or your back or something for a couple of hours. That's terrible.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, it's funny. Like, man, part of the reason I quit weed was because I had to fucking go to the bank and do my taxes, man. Like,
yeah.
fucking, you know, because
really?
I do like my taxes and shit on my day off, and then fucking, you know, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's my day off. I'll smoke a joint in the morning, like sweet, you know. So I'd smoke a joint, and then like, oh fuck, like, and I'd start to do my taxes, and I'd be looking at my fucking, you know, balance sheets, whatever, and just fucking like sweating, like this is fucked, like trying to look at the numbers, and then it'd be like, you know, it'd take me hours to fucking do that because like, you know, me doing maths while stoned is not. It just doesn't work real well. You know, then I'd be like, oh fuck, that was stressful. Like, I'm glad I got that out of the way. To reward myself, I'm going to smoke another joint, and then I'd smoke another joint and then fucking go to the bank, and then I'd just be sitting there and lying, like going like, this is fucked, man. Like, I hate it, you know? So like kind of being aware of that. Yeah. Like you say, even just regular things, like, you know, when you're stoned is like unenjoyable, let alone like a really intense experience.
Yeah, man. I really, you know, I really respected the whole thing, and I put a lot of thought into it before I went in. And to be honest, I was super nervous and I didn't know how my body would react or mentally how I'd react, because I knew it was going to be a bit of an ordeal because it's fairly big. And I think, you know, I relied on the reason that I was getting it during when it was tough. And it's interesting. Maybe some of the people that look like they could handle it, maybe some of their reasoning is, you know, as you said, for vanity and things like that. Maybe they don't have a lot to draw on to get through those tough moments. But yeah, one of the things the guy that did mine was saying was try and relax your toes. If you can relax your toes, you know, you might be able to get through it. And he made an emphasis on just trying to relax, which, you know, I didn't really consider. A lot of it was I was sort of tensing up and trying to like grit my way through it. And once I sort of got that concept of relaxing, I just let it sort of come in waves and go and whatnot. So it sort of helped. It's really interesting though. I was surprised, you know, sometimes I found it was really tough. Some days it was fine.
Usually, man, the amount of people that come in, you know, getting tattooed, they're all right, and then I don't know, like they might have an argument with the girlfriend on the phone, and then like directly after that phone call, everything starts to hurt more. You know what I mean? So it really depends on the day. It depends on what you've eaten. It depends on your body in general. Like you're saying, if you have a good reason to kind of be there, like that's definitely going to be like a motivator to get through. It hugely comes down to where you're at mentally and like how you're able to handle it.
Totally, man. And what about from your point of view, from the artist's point of view, physical health, mental health, do those things play a role? I imagine that you're sort of hunched over a lot, using your hands a lot. Is there any emphasis, within the industry, within you and your colleagues and fellow artists to sort of take care of your mental health, or is it not really discussed? Or
Mm, I think kind of like, look, when I was starting out, like two of my mentors had previously had broken backs and they had serious back problems. So for me, like not broken backs at the time, but they had at one point in their life broken their back and therefore as a result had, serious fucking back problems, and like problems with their hands and like I think, so the generation before me, like it wasn't really a prominent part of the conversation. And even myself a few years ago, like let's say 4 years ago now, there was a couple times where I was working and, I was leaning over and then just something moved the wrong way. And then like I just had to stop and couldn't keep going, couldn't do
really?
anything.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, at least, and so I'm not old, so like that was kind of worrying that like that had happened at least 2 times. So from there, like taking into account like my experiences working with people with back problems, I did try and take into account just exercising, like basic exercising, because you're sitting around all day, you're not moving, and if you do that for years at a time, and you don't really make up for it anywhere, like you're going to notice it has an effect on your body and therefore your mind as well. Like it is all one moving object. So like if you feel like shit and your back's hurting, then you're going to be in a bad mood and you're not going to be able to deal with customers as good. You're just going to feel shit when you're not at work anyway. To motivate yourself to do designs and stuff like that. Like you're going to be generally unmotivated. So I did start exercising a little bit, and then I've had my ups and downs over the last couple years in terms of like maintaining it, but yeah, like the more time goes on, like I've really tried to prioritize my just my physical health, and that has had like knock-on effects to how I feel in general. So even if I have something that's, I don't know, whatever, just something going on in life that's real hectic and real fucked to deal with, like at least I know that if I've got training or if I've got something to look forward to, that that like I don't worry about it as much. I deal with it way better now than like when I was a lot younger. I don't know if the conversation about mental health is super prominent. Like this is something I'm noticing as I'm getting older in general. Like everyone's got their own problems. Like a lot of people don't really want to talk to you about your problems, and that's okay. I think that's like there's a reason why you pay therapists money, because like it's actually quite a lot to take on the emotional baggage of someone else when you've got all your own shit. So like
For real.
I think
Fuck
I
yeah.
think in general, as time goes on, like people are less concerned with just talking to like someone comes to you with like, fuck man, like I've got this really hectic thing, like you want their input, but yeah, most people don't really want to engage with that in general. I notice that as I get older, because I think that's just a general thing that you learn how to avoid other people's problems a bit better as you age. Whereas when you're younger, you don't have the vocabulary to stay away from it. So in terms of like a professional environment, I think that there's a lot of pressure to not be in a bad mood. You know what I mean? Like I think that a lot of people expect you just to be doing good all the time, and if you're not, then it's real awkward
Yeah, for sure,
from my
man.
my experience.
Yeah, definitely. You mean as an artist, like in terms of as the tattoo artist, or just in general?
Both. I think especially at work, because yeah, like fuck, man, like it's a real weird thing. Like I said before, like you're in a position where like I'm really vulnerable to the customer, and the customer's really vulnerable to me. And so I also have to be aware that it's like fuck, like actually there's certain things that I probably shouldn't share with this person just because like it could have an effect on my business, because like some people makes them uncomfortable, like they in general, and even if it's someone you know well, but like yeah, you do have to be conscious of that. um Man, like I think it's just one of those natural things with people in general. Like if you're a positive dude and you're doing good all the time, then people are going to gravitate towards you. Like just because it's like people want to be surrounded by like quote unquote good energy. And if you like, I don't know, you might not necessarily be negative, but if you're not spreading around positive energy all the time, like maybe I don't know, you just give it. If you say what you think, sometimes you shouldn't say what you think, and I think that does have an effect at work. Or I've noticed over the years, like maybe I've said what I think like a couple too many times. Yeah, where I probably could have just fucking said what someone wanted to hear instead of what I think. I
Yeah,
don't know.
totally, man. No, that's understandable. I guess, it's a crazy sort of balance that when I look at tattoo artists, or when I, just looking into sort of getting prepared for today and looking into some people that I like, and having had a little bit of experience with people that have gotten into tattoos before, it's this crazy balance between, and I find it in a lot of artists as well, between like, it's so much about art and about them, but also there's this sort of gap between, monetizing that and bridging the gap between themselves and the clients and being professional. And it's a lot to take on, man. So I always sympathize with that, sort of mind state that an artist has to be in to make money out of their art, but at the same time express themselves and go through all those challenges and all that type of thing. So I think, there's a lot of pressure on guys like you. Well, maybe, I can't speak for you personally, but artists in general.
Well, I kind of think like I've been characterizing or categorizing it lately as like things I make for other people versus things that I make for myself. And I think this is true of a lot of people who monetize something creatively, that you kind of realize at a certain point you want to get repeat success in a thing. You do have to listen to the market or what people want, and that is changing. I mean, you look at like a lot of musical artists that change the style of music that they do over a period of 10 years, and the ones that are able to stay relevant are definitely not doing the same thing as their first album, and in the last album that they made. So in general, like when you're taking into consideration that you most of the time, if you wanting to monetize something, you're providing a service or you're doing something for someone else. For a period of time, you might be able to do that, expressing yourself, quote unquote. But if you're a person, you're probably going to change and you're probably going to evolve, and so maybe at some point the way that you express yourself doesn't resonate with as many people as it once did, or something like that. So to be conscious that like you are making things for other people, and that like maybe you have the luxury of not having to separate that from how you express yourself. But for me personally, like, yeah, there's a big difference between what I make for other people and what I make for myself. And I do notice as well, like I do a lot more work for other people than I do for myself, which is I think normal in life. Like you've got bills, or you just got only so much time in the day. So if you like, I have to prioritize at a certain point, like what's going to be like, how am I paying my rent for the next month? Like what are my goals in general? Not just that, like it's also kind of satisfying making stuff for other people. Like, everyone wants to be validated, right? So like if you make something from someone else and they're really happy with it, and not just them, all their friends are also like, oh, that looks sick. you know, like there's part of us in general, I think, as people that we want to be validated for what we do. But yeah, the reality of that is that you're probably going to be validated by what you make for other people instead of what you make for yourself. And I think you can look at a lot of successful artists, you know, where it'll be a lot of what they do will be a comment about what's going on in the world rather than a comment about themselves. So in reflecting in that especially, you know, today's art, which is you know, I mean, like if you compare someone like Hieronymus Bosch, who did like 36 paintings in his lifetime, compared to you know, like an artist now who's like, I feel like the expectation is to have a higher quantity than 32 paintings in your lifetime in general. You know, so keeping that into consideration, like I do think that that's a relevant part of monetizing, making pictures or making stuff, is that you are kind of doing it for other people. Going back to the mental health thing, you can't, I feel like personally, like I have to balance it out by being conscious of how much I'm making for other people this month, and it's like maybe I need to do a little bit more for myself next month, so I can still feel okay about making things for other people, you know.
Definitely, man. You know, speaking of doing things for yourself, I mean, what are you talking about? Like just drawings, paintings? What kind of art are you involved in outside of the studio?
Yeah, just I mean, personally, as keeping a sketchbook, you know, just trying to do a drawing in that, and like having the idea be, you know, my own idea about something else. I don't need to show anyone. Like, I don't need to be judged for this, you know, like I can just do it because I want to do it. You know, since the last lockdown, I've started trying to learn like 3D modeling off YouTube. So I've been doing a little bit of that, and you know, like maybe I'll like just kind of set myself a goal, or like make a little project, and just try and bring that to completion to myself, just to try and like develop that, and you know, like then some of those skills that, you know, like I might learn like that just for myself because I enjoy it. You know, then I might be able to transfer that into tattooing as well, which I have started doing.
Yeah, definitely, man. I saw some of your Instagram posts with that digital art. What's the program you're using?
I'm using ZBrush
ZBrush, that's
for,
it.
yeah, and I'm using Blender a little bit for some of the more like hard surface stuff, and then I'm rendering a lot of it in Keyshot. So like, I don't know, like I would like to learn more. A lot of these programs are pretty expensive, so like I'm also trying to like not go too deep into it. I'm just trying to like slowly get better at using the programs that I do have for now. But it's super broad and super complex, you know, like I feel, you know, but it's also nice to just learning new things. But like that's the other thing is, like, I think you can get a lot of enjoyment from learning new things that I don't know, just interest you, you know.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. And does you know, does your background in graffiti and things like that, does that transfer at all? You know, obviously they've run parallel because you started tattooing when you were 18, but does your style as a tattoo artist develop in the same way as graffiti does?
Yes and no. I think it does. Whether I think it should is probably a different question. Um, there's heaps of parallels between tattooing and graffiti, you know, and I think you can kind of see that reflected in the amount of graffiti writers that have become tattooers. You know, like I think it's the one of the standard jobs if you've been painting graph for a certain amount of time, then you just make the transition into tattooing. Like, of maybe I'm wrong, but I think that I've seen that a lot. You know,
No,
I
it
mean,
makes sense, doesn't it?
yeah, exactly. You know, so I think there are parallels, but I think that for me personally, I have to make the separation because I think I was trying to draw a lot of parallels for years when I shouldn't have been trying to make parallels. I should have been actually trying to let go a little bit and let it be its own thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that maybe the style things, a lot of that isn't transferable. It depends on who you are as a person as well. Like, it depends what kind of graph you're painting. You know what I mean? Like, put it like this, like if you were painting graph and like you got like a pretty standard style. I don't know, your style is pretty much like the same that you'd get from like Style Wars or fucking Subway Art or something like that, which is a pretty common thing. If you were looking at Subway Art or you're inspired by Star Wars and you're trying to do like a pretty classic style, like there's a large chance that you'll go into tattooing and you'll probably try and get into traditional tattooing because it's like the same kind of thing. Like you're borrowing a lot from what came before you and you're trying to add your own spin to it or something like that. And so I think in that way of like the way that you absorb information in graph is kind of the same way that you absorb information in tattooing, where you do borrow a lot, which a lot of writers would say that they don't fucking bite tooth and nail from fucking like what came before them. But I think it's natural and I think it's healthy, like to kind of like take from what came before you. So there are a lot of parallels between the two. I don't necessarily know if it's transferable. Like I think that it's important to make a separation at some point from the two.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. And graffiti itself, does that work as tattoos ever? Do you ever find that you're doing directly transferable from the sort of graffiti world onto people's skin? Is that a common trend?
I have, but not really. I also don't think it looks real good. Like if you got I don't know, fuck whatever. If you got a piece down your forearm, man, like I don't know if that looks super
hard
fresh.
to do, isn't it?
It's not hard to do. It's just hard to wear. A big part of tattooing. A big part of tattooing is like it's something that you wear. So if you're wearing like a fucking like just a piece, I personally think it doesn't look like great. I think that there's certain things that stylistically work really well. Kind of like clothing or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I think a piece looks good as a piece, but if you got a T-shirt with a piece on it, maybe like in the 90s or the early 2000s, that could have been fresh. But like if I think about myself now as like like a dude in his 30s, like wearing a shirt with a piece on it, I don't know. Like I don't think it's super easy to wear. And so this is also the thing of like being a tattoo and it's meant to you're meant to wear it for a long time. Like I don't know if you're like a 60-year-old dude with like a faded out tattoo like of a piece. Like I don't know if that's as hot as something else that could work probably better. Like I kind of reckon maybe the skull and the rose would have been a fresher tattoo to wear when you're 60 than the graph piece.
I guess graffiti, part of the beauty of graffiti is its temporary nature. So it, just thinking about it, transferring it to a permanent art form is a long stretch. So you're exactly right.
Well, I think it's a youth thing as well. Like I think a big part of graph should be that it's for a younger generation. Like whereas I kind of feel like tattooing is also for youth, but it's slightly older in my mind. Or it can be like partaken in by older people. But yeah, like I do think that exactly that. Like it is temporary. It should be temporary. And I think if you try and make graffiti more permanent, I don't think it's as good as like something that's impermanent for graph. Like a panel, man. Like I think panels should be buffed. You know what I mean? Like because it allows space for new panels. Whereas a tattooing ideologically is a completely different thing. So I think that it should be there for as long as the person like kind of is alive, basically.
Yeah, totally, man. No, that's a really good point. Speaking of graffiti, I know Hamburg's known for some amazing graffiti and some of the best graffiti artists in the world, and it's got a massive history there. What's it like there at the moment? Is it still active? Is there still people doing a lot of stuff? Do what's it like out in the open?
Yeah. Like I think Hamburg for painting in Germany is pretty good. In terms of the laws, like it's a lot more relaxed than other parts of Germany, and probably other parts of Europe. It depends where you look, but the laws are pretty chill, so that means that there's less consequences if something bad happens. You know what I mean? Like you're not generally looking at a jail sentence. Yeah, dude, like it's painting here has been pretty good, like I've personally, painted a little bit here, and yeah, I always had like a pretty good time. Like this is the other thing, man. Like I think that's probably where you can kind of draw the parallels between graph and tattoos. Like for me, I've had a lot of customers that are fucking writers. You know what I mean? Like if like I started tattooing from like my friend who I met through graph. We were crewmates, and then like a lot of my customers that came after that I had known through graph. Like yeah, like that's where I'd draw the parallels, which is like more a reflection of like my own life, that it's been a part of my life for fucking quite a while now. Yeah, so I think in Hamburg it's it's pretty good to paint. Like it has its ups and downs like anywhere else. But in the past couple years it was pretty good. You could paint a lot. It's kind of difficult at the moment because they don't really buff much. So like if there's a fresh spot, it gets taken straight away, and then it'll probably be there for years. So it's interesting to see that like kind of everything up until like that you need a ladder to kind of reach is painted. A lot of
Really?
it. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about the train system? Is there panels running and things like that and see on your way to
Yeah.
work?
Yeah. There's panels running. The subway doesn't run. Like they pull it out directly. If there's a panel on the subway, but the S-Bahn, like the normal trains, like they run. So like you'll definitely see a panel every couple of days. Like it's yeah, it's sweet. I don't know. Like I've definitely the past, let's say 8 months, 7 months. I haven't been painting too much because I've just been trying to focus on other things, But before that, I was definitely painting like like a decent amount, and it's been good, while I've been here for sure. Like I've met all my friends through graph. Like I probably wouldn't have as good of a support network around Hamburg or Germany if it wasn't for graph. Like so it's just kind of, I mean, it's really funny how certain things work out, like even when I came here, like my friend who I knew through graph, like the one that I stayed on the couch, like, like same thing. I knew him through graph. So like, a lot of doors and opportunities have been opened, because of graph.
Yeah, man, I can imagine. Yeah, for sure. It's one of those, it's one of those subcultures that people look out for each other, and a lot of positive connections can come out of something that can be perceived as very negative from the general public. But there's a lot of beauty in the whole community and creativity and the positivity, and I mean, it's shaped your life really. So it's an amazing thing. Did where did you was that type of thing your first sort of foray into art when you were younger, or did you sort of grow up in a creative household? Did you get into drawing during school, or was it just out of school and into that type of thing? Or where did you come across art or your interest in art back in the day?
Um, the first solid memory I have of wanting to pursue art was when I was like, I guess would have been like 7, 8, something like this, real young. And I first saw Akira, like fucking like as soon as I saw Akira and then Ghost in the Shell, I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, what the fuck is this, man? Like, how did they do it? Like my older sister, like, she was explaining like how they animate things, and then there was like a at the end of one of the VHS tapes, like, like the how to of, and they showed them animating it like cell for cell. I'm like, whoa, like this is insane. Like, I want to be able to make pictures like that, So I think, yeah, from a pretty early age, like I was really like, I really wanted to just do drawings and like draw from a very young age, and then probably stopped for a couple of years when I was like 11 or 12 or something like that, and then I kind of got a reinterest in it in graph. So I think I was 13, and I was living on the Gold Coast, and like I was kind of seeing some of it around then. I'm like, this is sick. And then I think I went to visit my sister in Sydney one time, and like a lot of her friends were writers. Well, not a lot of them. Like there was a couple of them. Like they were tagging. We were hanging out one time. And they were tagging. I'm like, oh, like what's that? I can do that. Like give me a go. Like. And then I did like a tag at 13, and then fucking went back to the Gold Coast, and I was like fucking with like a couple of my little rat bag friends I was hanging out with. Like it's like, yeah, let's get some paint and fucking go tagging.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely gave me like the interest going into being a teenager, into making pictures, because like I think, to be honest, with where I was at as a person at 13, like I definitely just wanted to be fucking cool. You know what I mean? So like if I had been getting into like I couldn't imagine myself getting into fucking like being an anime nerd or something at 13, because that wouldn't have been like, other people would have thought I was lame. So it was kind of like this thing that I could do where other people would look at me like, where I felt that they would look at me like, oh yeah, he's this graph dude, and so like, obviously, yeah, then like as you progress into teenage years, like it formed a huge part of my identity, like growing up,
Definitely, man. And yeah, that's really interesting, bro, because some of those, for anyone involved in that culture, just those early experiences are so powerful, and you look back on them so fondly. Just the first couple of times you go to the drains or anything like that, and then a lot of the time you find yourself 10 years down the track and you're still kind of doing the same shit, in terms of art. And it's so fun, and you're always trying to get better, and you just, it's such a labor of love.
Even just stupid things, like I remember distinctly, like I don't know, I would have been 13, 14 or something, and me and my matey were like painting a fucking like highway at like fucking, I don't know, whatever, in the daytime in the rain, and like at the time we thought it was heaps fucking cool, but like looking back on it now, like it was just so fucking dumb, but it was hilarious because of like how like intense it was at the time. It was like fucking, I don't know, like a Bill and Ted movie or some shit, like just because it was, because I don't know, like, yeah, you're just some kid, you like hanging out with your buddies, like fucking like, yeah, let's fucking paint the fucking highway. Can't, like, I don't know, like and then then you get your props from your mateys, or your mateys like, oh, that piece of shit can't like fucking see, like, oh, fuck you, man, I'll show you, so it's like, yeah, like it's a real interesting way to kind of like start interacting with the world, I think, because I think before that you're not really like interacting with the world so much, like around that age is when you really I don't know, trying to find your own legs to kind of just interact with the world around you.
Yeah, man, for sure. Is tattooing, was that sort of a passion of yours from those early, you said you started when you were 18, but was it a way for you just to continue to be creative, or was it something that you always wanted to do from the jump?
To be honest, I didn't really think about it early on. It was more just an opportunity, like it sounded like a good idea at the time. Like I was too ignorant to kind of like appreciate what it is early on. It was really just because the opportunity was placed in front of me, and like yeah, I just took it, man. Like which is, in a way probably shit, because I feel honestly that I went into tattooing with a pretty bad attitude, just a young and a bad attitude. I didn't appreciate it for what it was until like a little later on. Like I was just like, oh yeah, like fuck it, whatever, why not, like, and I think it's definitely one of those things. As time goes on, I get more passionate about it, and what I like to, it's got such a rich history. It's so diverse, and I think it's hard to tattoo for a long time without getting really interested in it. Or if you are tattooing for a long time and you don't get interested in it, then there's something wrong with you. But yeah, I guess starting out, man, like I really didn't. I had no way to kind of understand it. Like I hadn't gotten heaps of tattoos. I'd only gotten tattooed a couple times before I started, and yeah, it was just kind of the opportunity, you know.
Well, I guess at 18, I mean, how are you going to know anything about that industry? You've got to be in it to sort of learn about it, I guess, at that young age of 18.
Oh, well, look, that's the other thing. I think that if you're getting tattooed a lot before you start tattooing, like you probably learn a lot about what it is. Yeah. Whereas I hadn't got that many tattoos beforehand. Um, like I feel like I hadn't contributed enough to really be deserving of starting when I started. Like it was really just dumb luck. Like I can't credit any passion to like the reason why I was allowed to start tattooing.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, your work is I love it. It's great. You've got your own, I'm going to try and put words to your artwork, which is sort of a hard thing to do for someone outside, but I really enjoy it. I think it's fantastic, man. You've got your own style, and some of the tattoos that you're doing, I think they're awesome, man. So it sounds like you have come full circle in a lot of ways, and you've sort of, you're really young, so you sounds like you've got a big journey ahead of you. But is tattooing something you're thinking about doing long term?
Yeah, I guess like as long as I can do it. I kind of feel like lately I'm really only getting to a point where I'm doing some tattoos that I'm quite proud of, and I'm feeling a little bit of progress lately. Um, it's hard to say because like that's the thing, you do something and then a couple of years later you're like, that's shit. So like I'll let you know in a couple of years, but yeah, like I'm trying to do it long term. Like I think it's really the only way to do it. You can't really get into tattooing unless you're doing it long term. Because the first 10 years, I don't think you're gonna come so far. Because a lot of it is about like just personal development of technique. I think for me personally, like a lot of the first 10 years was just like trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and so now I'm kind of able to expand on a couple of those ideas and techniques and try and suggest those things to people as like a customer. And yeah, no, I think so. I think I want to do a long time, as long as my body holds out. Like that's the other thing of like trying to stay healthy is like yeah, the better I keep my body, the longer I can do it.
Are there, and you might not know, but the guys and girls that you're working around, and maybe from all the shops that you've been on, is it generally a lot of younger people like yourself that are sort of active in the scene? Do you see older guys still going hard, pumping out tattoos, or older gals as well?
Yeah, it's both. It's both. There's definitely like a lot of younger people starting out. I see a lot of people who start when they're older as well.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Right.
You
Interesting.
know, and yeah, I see like a lot of people that have been tattooing for 20 years, 30 years. They're still killing it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think. I definitely see a broad range. Like it's like this is what I was saying before about it being accessible. Like I think there's a more broader range of who's tattooing now than probably there's ever been before. Just because it is more accessible for someone who traditionally might not have been the person to kind of start tattooing. But yeah, like I don't know, man. Like, yeah, if you've done like a digital marketing course, like the chances of you becoming a successful tattooer is probably pretty high. Because like, you probably got the marketing skills to develop a
Oh, I
client
see what you're
base.
saying. Yeah, true. So, actually, that's actually a good point, and I don't want to keep you too much longer, man. I know I've taken up a bit of your time already, but is a lot of it? You said a lot of it is word of mouth. Is there any other forms of, do you seek out clients at all, or is it just completely word of mouth, or do you have to do any of your own marketing or branding or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I try and keep posting shit to social media. And that like I think a lot of that more stands for if I tattoo someone and then one of their friends asks about a tattoo and then they can look at my work on social media and then they can get in contact with me like that. So yeah, like I mean I kind of have to do a lot of that stuff, but it's not my strong point, so to speak. So yeah, a lot of a lot more of my business is cultivated through word of mouth and just like, I don't know, trying to be like a decent dude and like give people a good experience, and like a lasting impression with their tat. And till now, it's been working. Like I'm still, I still try and like I don't know, like do some ads every now and then, or fucking I got to work on a website and stuff. Really, like I should be doing that because I know a
Yeah, I
lot of
was looking for
businesses
one.
get.
I couldn't find one.
No, I don't have one. But yeah, like a lot of people do get business through Google because like a lot of people who don't know anything about tattoos like do Google like tattoo shop in an area, and they go there. So that's definitely something I kind of need to be a bit more proactive in, I think. But yeah, no, like for me personally, that's kind of that's what's worked for me so far. I haven't really been able to figure out the like cultivating too much business from social media. I think some people are great at it and they figure it out. I don't really. I still haven't been able to figure it out.
Yeah, true, man. Yeah. Well, it's all pretty new, and if it's working, it's working.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I still get to do like a bunch of like great work, So like, it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just, yeah, I think that's the thing over time. Like, I think maybe like 5 years ago, like it would have worried me more or like bothered me more. But like these days, I'm a lot more like comfortable in the sense of like, like there should probably be work. I'm probably not going to go broke. I'm not like, I don't have to book myself out as much as possible all the fucking time because like, like I've only got the work that's there now. Like as like that, I've let that go a little bit. And, I'm feel comfortable in the fact that like, yeah, I'll probably have work in the years to come just because like it's worked till now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm the same sort of. I started my own painting business a couple of years ago, and I used to stress out so much about where the next job was going to come from and rah rah. And now I just, everything seems to, the phone just rings when it should, and if it doesn't, you just deal with it then, and things come up. So try not to get too worried because you end up just wasting your time stressing out over, potential clients, and I need to make the most money as possible, and rah rah rah. It just takes away from the time.
The other thing is like, look, so if you're having a busy month, like sick, and if you're having a quiet month, like I just try and use the spare time to be like, okay, then I'll put that energy into, like, yeah, like doing some designs or just work, like actually just lately working longer on the coming designs for customers, because like for me personally, like I know if I put more energy into the customer's design and I make it as good as I can and I put, like just more energy into that, like I guess that will then be better received. You know what I mean? And so therefore, exactly what I'm saying with this like word of mouth thing, like there will be a higher chance of success rate of this having more return customers just because like it's a better design.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Theoretically.
Definitely. Yeah. So tell me about, I know nothing about other than you just have a needle, a gun and some ink. Have you had to learn over the years about different guns, different needles, different inks? Do you get particular types of inks from different places? Do you put a lot of thought into what you're using, your tools?
Yeah, for sure. I think you have to, because you're like, it's the shit that you're using every day, so you want it to be as least frustrating of a process as possible while you're working, so like I'm sure you could probably attest that if you're painting a wall and you're using fucking a half dried out brush, like that is not going to be as effective as if you have the Rolls Royce of brushes, like like painting a wall. So it's the same thing in tattooing that I think if you're like you definitely, it's good to understand your tools. It's good to understand what you're looking for in a machine, or like depending on what kind of shading you're trying to achieve or what kind of lines you're trying to do, like that'll affect what kind of like colors that you'll use, like in terms of like the like different blacks will have a different amount of pigment in them, which like some will be better for fine lines and some will be better for shading more, et cetera, et cetera. So I definitely put a lot of thought into the tools, and like I think it's just shop talk, like talk amongst tattooers, like it's just an easy go-to conversation topic, like you don't really have to talk about too much of yourself. You can just talk about like what machine you got, or like, oh yeah, have you tried these needles, like they're actually real sick, like like it is I I think it becomes therefore a conversation topic, and then you assimilate some of that into your own work and actually end up trying out like some of these tools, or like just working with people in general, and you see them use a machine and fucking, if you've heard like 5 people talk about how sick this machine is, and then you use one and you're like, oh, actually, fuck, it's real sick. Then you're probably going to buy that machine, because like, yeah, once again, the word of mouth, like if everyone's given the hot tip on some fresh machine, like, I think, yeah, you probably will. I put it off for ages. Like, I just got this machine recently that like, everyone's been talking about how sick it is for years. I'm like, it's probably not that good, like, but then I like used it one time, like, it's
pretty good.
It's that good. Yeah, it's pretty good. So
and then you're talking about it. Oh, you should check.
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
Yeah.
Then my friend came and visited the week. I'm like, oh, dude, try this out. You got to try it out. Like, so like there's definitely a lot of that as well. And yes, because like that's the other thing. It's such a big industry of fucking tattoo supplies, man.
Totally, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it expensive, that type of thing? I mean, you don't have to tell me exactly how much you're spending on tools or whatever, but is it something that, I mean, how many machines do you have? Do you keep them at home? Have you got a bag full, or do you just have 1 or 2?
Heaps, man. Got heaps. I couldn't give you a number because like it's like, but whatever, probably 20 or something. I don't know, like 20, 25, 30. I don't know. I've got like a bunch here, actually, in my drawer here, and I've got like a bunch of work that I kind of use on the regular. You know what I mean? And then like I'll go through phases. Actually, where I'll use like a couple machines, and then I'll forget about a machine that I haven't used for a while, and then like, I don't know, I might find like a machine in a fucking box behind a book, and be like, oh, this fucking forgot about this one, and then like I'll pull it out and be like, oh man, like why did I hide this machine away, fucking, like in the depths of a corner somewhere, like it's actually a real good machine, and then I'll start using that machine again. And then I'll be like, oh fuck, like actually this is fucked if they discontinue this machine, which like some of them they have. It's like, oh man, like, yeah, because like when this machine breaks, like I probably can't use it anymore, depending on the machine. Some machines you can repair and use again, but other machines, like, like it's a certain type of rotary, like that's kind of it, like. So I've spent a lot on machines and tools, and the longer time goes on, like, like for sure I'll buy like the more expensive needles, because it's like, you can just see the line quality is better, it heals better, like all that kind of stuff. You
said it heals better. You mean the healing process on the person that gets it is better if the needle's better?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. And how do you maintain them? Do they require like constant cleaning and things like that?
Like, I don't know, like everyone's kind of got their own process that they suggest. You know what I mean? At the moment, actually, like this, maybe not the bigger stuff, but I've been using this like second skin stuff for like, small to medium sized tattoos, and there's a noticeable difference in the amount of like pigment that stays in the skin. You know what I mean? Or like the brightness of the colors, it looks a lot more vibrant. So that's been pretty good. And like that kind of affects, how you approach a tattoo as well, where I might, before, if I might shade like, I don't know, like a whole big area, I might like finish a whole smaller area so I can use a second skin, and then in the end the tattoo heal is better. Like the vibrancy of the tattoo is better. So that's definitely been something that's changed over time. But yeah, like without giving like fucking tattoo advice on like how to look after your tattoos, like, yeah, for sure, like I've got the way that I kind of suggest, like, but then like even the people that I work with, they suggest something else as well, so.
Has there been many changes from when you started, when you were 18, in terms of machinery? Has there been massive shifts in the types of things that are available, or has it pretty much been the same?
Yeah, it's been the same. It's like, actually, no, sorry, I'm lying. It's changed a lot, I should say. Yeah, like, I mean, lately there's, a bunch of cordless machines now. That's been something that's kind of come in, which it seems really simple when you kind of look at it, and it's surprising that it didn't come sooner. But yeah, that's been a huge shift, and so like therefore making tattooing even more accessible again, because like you just get like basically a pen, so it's a pen with a battery on it, and you don't even have to know so much about like your power supply, if you're using RCA or clipcord or like or whatever, you just don't need to know as much, because it's been reduced down to like quite a simple tool. You know, so like it's the what you can get has changed. You've also seen certain things like, I think when I got into tattooing, it was like the starting of like a lot of corporate interaction with tattooing. You know, so there would be like certain companies that like would have tattoo suppliers or something like that, but it was like owned by a big company. Maybe a tattooer started it, but then like it was taken over by this big company. But there's been like a couple more like notable tattooers starting you know, needle brands or machine brands or something like that. So actually there's been kind of I personally think that that's been a bigger thing, where if you there's been more tattooers making supplies, you know, which I think is good. You know, I think that yeah, in the end, it should be an industry that supports itself, like, and I feel like less corporate involvement is better.
Always, yeah. For most things, for sure, man. I would totally agree. Well, listen, man, it was really good to talk to you, bro. It's really good to see that you're out there and you seem like you're doing well. And you mentioned before the show that you're getting married, man. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, I get really excited when I see someone making a life out of their art and out of their creativity. It just it fills me with a lot of excitement, especially someone that, you know, that I know and that I've known in the past. So utmost respect for you, man. And I can't thank you enough for your time, bro.
Thank you for listening to the Lead Poison Podcast.
Talking to me? Oh yeah? Huh? Okay.